Saul killed 1,000. Cause you pain. Remember the scripture says, anybody who's not producing fruit, he cuts them off and throws them away. But the people who are producing fruit, he cuts them so that they can have more fruit. What I found out is one cut is full of pain and the other cut. Think about it. 1,000. David 10,000. Saul killed 1,000. David 10,000. Hey, they not like God. Okay, you can say that. But I'm just.
Shalom. And to that, we would like to take Al-Halayam, La Alahay, Nawa Yahawa Bashim Rashai, Bashim Kakradash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of great Mr. Food well. Shalom unto the brothers that pushing this woods in truth and in sincerity, each other for ones of it. And Shalom unto the Israelites from the hidden nations. And Shalom unto a few unfaithful Aquatium who is listening and learning and being your husband, is the brother Karatazah. From the GMS, prophetic Bible.com out of Trinidad and Tobago. Right, so here we'll bring you a short lesson. Hope this video be edified. Right, so here you have a pastor, so-called pastor, right? They say a pastor is making headlines for bringing a cyber truck into his church and getting a haircut on stage during his sermon. Right, let me tell you, the movie Terrence is a prime example of this video. Right, the movie Terrence is a prime example of this video, right? Because Terrence, right, I give a little insight in the movie. All right, Terrence, was he always wanted to make a lot of money, right? But with that, he ended up being a mocker. Towards Yahweh Shai. Right, and it just brings me back to that, how his actions was. He did a lot of false acts, right, before the Lord, right? And this say you could see, right, this is what your truth is like. You are like these type of things. You're like being fed simple things. You're like being fed smooth things and not the better things, which the better things is good for you, right? It's solely good for you, right? This is why right, with these scripture have sweet things and then it have better things. But guess what? The better things, it's what molds you, it's what shape you in getting a true understanding of balance, right? Let me get that precept. All right, this is Proverbs 11:1. A false balance is abomination to Yahweh, but a just weight is his delight. Because why? You cannot have one without the other. You cannot have the bad without the good. You cannot have the bad with you cannot have the good without the bad, and you cannot have the bad without the good, right? It must be balanced. It must be a balanced scale, right? And this is what you're seeing here. Here you have the prophets of the Lord, and then here you have the false prophets. All right? Because what you are witnessing here is a prime example of a false prophet. All these that are glam and this and that. No, the Lord didn't even ask, to go to do these things. The Lord asked, of the men that he called to do the works on the highways and byways, which on the streets, not rolling in with cyber trucks, right, and cutting a hair. The Lord spoke about marking the four corners of your beard. All right. This is the book of Leviticus, 19 and 27. Ye shall not round the corners of your head, neither shall thou mark, right, which is going to mark the corners of thy bed. Right, so he proudly sitting down and getting a haircut. And we all know that that beard is marking, that forehead is marking, right? But yet, people are deceived by these things. And what are you going to learn? What really are you going to learn here? There's nothing to be learned there, right? What you will have to understand that, hey, these Christian churches, these things, they are full on just for entertainment. This is why the Lord also spoke about these kind of places as harlot houses, right? I saw it, a woman and they dress very, very scandalous too, with tight clothing, right, and all of that. All right, be aware of these wolves, be aware of these false prophets. That's who you may think that may speak the truth. They're not come here to speak truth, they are come here to speak lies, to set you off, keep you in that delusional mind state, letting you drink of the Esau wine continually. Right? But this is what our people like. They like this type of entertainment. Right? But they will learn nothing but just folly. Right? But this is not the way. This is not the way of the true living power. This here is what you have been seeing being displayed, is the way of Esau Edom. Right? These men are being paid high to do what they do. They are professional actors. In case you did not know, they are professional actors. Right, so this is the book of Matthew 7 and 15. It said, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep clothing, what you are seeing there, prime example. But inwardly they are raven wolves. Ye shall know that by their fruits do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles. All right, and that fig of thistles is going into with the thistles, looking, all right, it is basically, like a well-groomed tree, a well-groomed fruit, right? But inside it is not good, it is rotten, right? Verse 17, even so every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth evil fruit. And you can see in the video, right, he talk about fruit. He talk about that fruit, right? About if you don't bring forth the fruit, if you don't bring forth fruit, the Lord will cut you off, right? But witches, that was basically going off. What he was talking about is basically going into prosperity, right? Going into prosperity, right? So here it's a every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire, right? Which meaning is that talking about teaching to the lambs, right? Teaching to the lambs, on to the sheeps, right? Because what we do, right? We look, right? We look for fruit, right? To feed that fruit, to nurture that fruit, right? With living water. Right? Just our prime example, right? To the brother that bring me into the truth, I am his fruit. Right? I am his fruit. It have, some brothers bringing some fruits and they was bad. Right? But those fruits that was bad, the fruits that was bad, right? With they were going with they were cast in the fire. Right? Verse 20. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Right? And I haven't go down into depth, right? I haven't go down into depth, but I hope that I was able to explain that. I hope that I was able to explain it, that you may understand. Right? Good. So these men.
Oh wow, hey.
These men.
Cause you pain. Remember the scripture says, anybody who's not producing fruit, he cuts them off and throws them away. But the people who are producing fruit, he cuts them so that they can have more fruit. What I found out is one cut is full of pain and the other cut is. Think about.
Right? So you can hear the nonsense that he's talking about. And the congregation will listen and believe that. Right? But this is prime example. It bring me back to that movie, Terrence. Right? So I hope that this video, was edifying. And to that I like to say Halayam La Alahainawa Yahweh Bashim Rashai Bashim Akakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of great Masonic well. Shalom unto the brothers that pushing his works in truth and in sincerity toward the folk on it. And shalom unto you, sisters, who's listening and learning and obeying your husband. These are brother practice on. Until next time, shalom.